Finland, 1970 UFO mystery. A biting chill grips the snowy countryside near Imjärvi as dusk settles over the silent forests. Two Finnish skiers, Arno Heinonen and Esko Viljo, head out for what should be a routine cross-country trip. Little do they know, their ordinary evening will thrust them into a baffling event, one that will leave them with unexplained injuries and a lifetime of questions. According to their testimony, an unknown craft descended upon a secluded clearing, casting an eerie glow and emanating heat intense enough to melt the surrounding snow. More unsettling were the physical after-effects that plagued the two men in the days and weeks following this encounter. Burns, sudden illnesses, and lingering trauma sparked immediate rumors and drew the attention of curious locals and skeptical officials alike. Was it the manifestation of something extraterrestrial? Or a more earthly phenomenon misunderstood amid the isolating cold of a Finnish winter? As the mystery deepened, so did the intrigue surrounding this puzzling incident. To uncover the full scope of what really happened on that chilling January evening, we need to step back into the dark forests of Imjärvi and examine every clue that continues to confound investigators, even decades later. Winter shadows. It was early 1970 when the remote forests of Imjärvi in southeastern Finland found themselves at the center of an unfolding mystery. At this time, Finland was steadily recovering from the after-effects of World War II and navigating its precarious position during the Cold War era. Life in the countryside was defined by simplicity and endurance. Wooden cottages huddled together against the unforgiving winter cold, while vast tracts of snow-covered woodland provided the backdrop for daily routines. Most villagers led quiet, hard-working lives, relying on logging or small-scale farming to make ends meet. In short, Imjärvi was far removed from any notion of cosmic intrigue. On that frigid day, the sun's pale light barely reached above the pine tops before fading into an early dusk. In this region, long nights were common, and the local population had grown used to the hush of winter evenings, often broken only by the crunch of boots on icy trails or the distant howling of the wind. It was precisely in this subdued atmosphere that two Finnish skiers, Arno Heinonen and Esko Viljo, ventured out for a brief afternoon exercise. Heinonen, known around the village as a reserved yet reliable worker, rarely entertained fanciful stories. Viljo, on the other hand, was slightly more adventurous. His friends joked that he'd ski anywhere, no matter the distance or temperature. By all accounts, there was nothing unusual about their plan that day. People in Imjärvi prided themselves on self-sufficiency, and outdoor activity was part of everyday life. But beneath that veil of normalcy, rumors had been quietly spreading. Some locals claimed to have seen flickering lights darting among the treetops on previous nights, though few took these accounts seriously. If anything, such talk was dismissed as the product of overactive imaginations or natural phenomena like the northern lights dancing on the horizon. Yet, as Heinonen and Viljo strapped on their skis and glided into the dim twilight, they had no inkling their uneventful afternoon would soon take a dramatic turn. What was supposed to be a routine trek through the snowy wilderness would thrust them into a baffling episode, one that would shake the village's sense of normalcy and send ripples of confusion far beyond Finnish borders. This was a moment when everyday life collided with the extraordinary, setting the stage for an incident that remains as haunting as the frozen forests that witnessed it. Finland's 1970 UFO mystery. Late in the afternoon, Arno Heinonen and Esko Viljo set out on their cross-country skis, oblivious to the extraordinary event about to unfold. The sun's last rays gilded the snow as the two men glided through the Imjärvi forest. Everything felt routine at first. The rhythmic swish of skis, the crunch of ice beneath each step, and the faint rustle of branches weighed down by fresh powder. By 4:45 p.m., dusk had settled, painting the sky in dim shades of purple and gray. According to Heinonen, the first hint that something was amiss came as a peculiar hum, almost like a distant engine straining on a cold start. Viljo paused, scanning the treetops for any sign of an aircraft. Instead, they saw a strange glow beyond the pines, an unsteady flicker that seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as the humming noise. Both men exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that this was no ordinary light in the winter twilight. As they edged closer to a small clearing, the humming intensified. Then, in a sudden rush, a bright disc-shaped craft descended from above, halting roughly 15 feet off the ground. In later accounts, Heinonen described it as polished metal, spinning in eerie silence, though the air around it crackled with heat. A red-gray mist surrounded the object, diffusing the light into an otherworldly glow. It was like standing in a heat wave, Viljo would later recall. My face felt hot and the snow beneath us started melting. Just as the two men struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing, a beam of light projected from the underside of the craft, sharp and radiant, cutting through the mist. From within this beam emerged a small humanoid figure, barely 3 feet tall, clad in a green coverall and wearing a conical reflective helmet. Heinonen claimed it floated rather than walked, gliding inches above the snowy ground. For a moment, time seemed to stall. Neither witness spoke nor moved, gripped by equal parts terror and awe. Heinonen later described an overwhelming sensation of numbness. "My right leg just gave out," he said, recounting how he collapsed to one knee in the snow. Meanwhile, Viljo felt a burning on his cheeks and a sudden wave of dizziness. The humanoid appeared to be holding a small black box emitting a pulsing yellow glow. It paid the men no heed, acting as though it were studying the craft or the area around it. Then, without warning, the being drifted back into the beam of light, disappearing into the metallic disc above. In a heartbeat, the UFO emitted a piercing, whistling sound, shot upward, and vanished into the darkening sky. The thick mist dissipated almost instantly, leaving the forest in an uncanny stillness. Dazed, the skiers found themselves struggling to stand, their limbs tingling and weak. The clearing they had once known was now marked by a round patch of melted snow, the faint odor of something metallic lingering in the cold air. Frightened and in pain, Heinonen and Viljo eventually made their way back home, each grappling with the indescribable shock of what they had just experienced. But their ordeal was only beginning. Burn marks, relentless headaches, and an unshakable sense of dread would soon follow, casting a long shadow over their lives. What truly happened in that frozen clearing remained a mystery even to them, offering more questions than answers, and setting the stage for one of Finland's most perplexing UFO cases. Investigating the impossible. When news of the Imjärvi incident first reached local ears, reactions ranged from skepticism to alarm. Within days, hushed whispers of strange lights in the forest began circling around the village, prompting a few curious onlookers to trek out to the alleged landing site. The first outside investigation came informally. Neighbors and friends of Arno Heinonen and Esko Viljo, eager to see if any trace remained in the snow. What they found was unexpected, a patch of melted snow in the exact spot where the men claimed the craft had hovered, coupled with an odd, lingering odor described as sweetly metallic. At the time, Finland's authorities had no formal protocol for UFO reports, but word of the incident eventually made its way to local newspapers, where brief articles highlighted the skiers' accounts and mentioned their puzzling physical ailments. Heinonen and Viljo, unsure what else to do, sought medical attention for their unusual symptoms. Viljo complained of persistent facial burning and swelling that didn't respond to ordinary creams, while Heinonen experienced debilitating headaches and episodes of weakness, so much so that he had to take a leave of absence from work. Their physician, perplexed by the combination of burns, fatigue, and fainting spells, could only suggest further testing, suspecting possible exposure to an unidentified energy source. Official explanations, however, were few and far between. Local law enforcement had no expertise in such matters, and no formal scientific body offered to investigate. News outlets could only provide second-hand accounts or interviews, which fueled both public curiosity and mounting doubt. Despite the apparent physical evidence, contradictions began to surface. Some in the community openly questioned whether the men had misinterpreted a natural phenomenon, such as ball lightning or an intense meteor flare. Others suspected a hoax pointing to the outlandish details of a floating humanoid. Yet Heinonen and Viljo remained consistent in their story, even passing polygraph tests administered by visiting researchers. Friends and co-workers vouched for their honesty, emphasizing that they were level-headed individuals with no prior history of extraordinary claims or a desire for fame. Still, the lack of official documentation, beyond a few scattered notes and news clippings, left plenty of room for speculation. Among researchers and ufologists, debates raged over potential explanations. Those inclined to believe in extraterrestrial visitation pointed to the burned snow, the men's lingering health issues, and the precision of their identical testimonies. Skeptics, on the other hand, highlighted the possibility of a shared hallucination induced by extreme cold or physical strain, drawing on reports of Arctic hysteria in historically frigid conditions. A less common theory proposed that the men might have stumbled upon a clandestine military test, some sort of prototype aircraft or a radiation-based experiment. If so, the secrecy could explain why no official statement was ever released, as well as the puzzling medical symptoms the witnesses experienced. Not even the men themselves could entirely dismiss alternative theories. After all, their encounter seemed impossible to rationalize by everyday logic. As the story spread beyond Imjärvi, more voices chimed in. Local historians recalled no precedent for such claims, while visiting scientists remained unconvinced without more tangible evidence. Meanwhile, Heinonen and Viljo found their lives consumed by a single event that offered no straightforward resolution. In the end, no one theory, be it extraterrestrial visitation, natural anomaly, hoax, or military operation, could fully account for every detail. Why did the craft appear so deliberately? How did the men's physical symptoms align with radiation exposure yet yield no definitive lab results? And could any rational explanation justify the bizarre humanoid figure they described? Each question led only to more speculation, leaving the Imjärvi incident suspended in a realm where the improbable and the inconclusive seem to converge. The mystery endures. No definitive explanation has ever fully accounted for what happened on that frigid January evening in Imjärvi. Decades later, Arno Heinonen and Esko Viljo's story remains largely unchanged. Neither man sought fame or fortune, only answers to the baffling phenomenon that invaded their quiet ski trip. Investigators found traces of melted snow and documented their lingering health issues. Yet no official body could produce conclusive proof of extraterrestrial activity or secret military experiments. The community itself was left divided. Some believed the skiers, citing the consistency of their accounts and the physical evidence at the scene. Others were quick to dismiss the event as a misunderstanding of natural forces or an outright fabrication. Despite the passage of time, local legends about flickering lights and strange figures near Imjärvi continue to surface, keeping the debate alive. Were Heinonen and Viljo unintentional witnesses to advanced technology from another world? Or could a simpler explanation lurk beneath the layers of speculation? Perhaps the truth remains hidden in that snow-covered clearing, waiting for a moment when fresh eyes and open minds converge. In the end, the Imjärvi encounter stands as a powerful reminder that not all mysteries can be neatly solved, and that sometimes the unknown is what truly compels us to keep searching. Was the 1970 Imjärvi incident truly a brush with the unknown, or could it all boil down to a misunderstood natural phenomenon or secret technology? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching Mr. Alien Files. If you enjoyed this ufology mystery, continue exploring the unexplained in our next video. Let's keep pushing the boundaries of what we know and what we dare to believe.